Okay, everyone, welcome back to the Black Carnivore live stream. I am excited to be here tonight and, just to chop it up with you, answer questions, and talk. So, welcome. Come on in. Now, I am on my own tonight, so if you could let me know whether you could hear me, I'd appreciate it. So put a comment in the chat box letting me know that you can hear me, okay? And then, we're going to dive right in. So, welcome everybody. And please hit that like buttons and subscribe and click the little bell icons. You can get notification every time I go live because YouTube doesn't always tell you. So if you really like this content and you want to come back and you want to, be notified, come often, like, and engage with the videos. Hey, Liz. Okay, so you can hear me. I see some thumbs up. Mr. Bogglesworth, welcome. Glad to see you. Hey, Heather, good to see you. Come on in. So, hey, Mimi. Oh, you're new here. Welcome. I love it when there's new people here. Let me know where you're from. And, if you're already following Carnivore, if you're just, I guess you would say Carnivore curious. Okay, Catherine, you can hear me. That's great. Okay, awesome. So tonight what I wanted to do was, I've been noticing that there's a lot of new people who are, giving Carnivore a try, and I love that. Really excited that so many people are, curious about it, want to try it, want to, dive right in. And, I just wanted to address some of the questions, the common kind of questions that I am seeing, make sure that you're all like getting off to the on the right foot. So I see some pretty common things and I just kind of wanted to cover them. So, let's just dive right in. And we have questions already. Jillian, what is oxalate dumping and what are the symptoms of it? So that is a great question, and I want to come back to that, okay? So if you could, just remind me, I don't know, in about 20 minutes or so, remind me to come back to that question. Hey, Hollis from Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas. Oh, wow. Awesome. Love it. Indianapolis, Indiana. Wow. People from all over. Hey, Jimmy ZC. It's awesome to see you. Welcome. Okay. So, let me get started. So there's a number of symptoms that I'm seeing people complain of, and I want to kind of, the way, when I look at it, I think that there are three like main problems that people have on Carnivore, and if you can kind of adjust and fix those, then, your journey is going to be a lot smoother. So that's not to say that you won't have other, things go on. I mean, specific people, we all have our own little idiosyncrasies, our own weaknesses, our own different illnesses. So you may have things that are outside of this spectrum. One should always, continue to stay in touch with your doctor, seek medical care. This is not a substitute for medical advice or medical treatment. But I think there are general things that really apply to most people, and then you might have some other things that happen outside of that. So let's just dive right into it. Let's see. Oh, Mimi, you're on the fence and you want to give it a try. You're planning on starting October 1st. Awesome. Welcome. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like we have a challenge going on right now, but it seems like we should try to, get another one going for October 1st because I've seen quite a few people who are, saying that they're ready. Michelle, welcome from Ohio. Daisy from the DMV. Yeah, we have a lot of people from the DMV. That's awesome. Audra, welcome. So glad to see you from beautiful and wet Seattle. So I guess it's raining out there, huh? Okay. So let me see. There's a window I want to show. Let's see. Okay. So there are some common symptoms that people complain of, and they are headache, fatigue, weakness, and constipation. So, obviously in the beginning of switching into the carnivore diet, it is, it's very different, of course. And there's a lot of things that are happening. And so, you might not feel great for a couple of days, maybe even a week. There's definitely a transition, even when you're coming from a keto diet. So, so it's fine if you're not feeling 100% on top of it, on top of your game. But I think that the first thing you want to check when you're feeling this kind of stuff is, let's see, is your salt levels. So, that's a really, I think on keto, keto is one of those diets. A ketogenic diet is one where, it really takes you back to your normal, the normal way that salt is supposed to function in your body. So when you're eating like a high carb, standard American diet, you're getting a lot of sodium, but your body also doesn't excrete it. It holds on to it. That's part of, the process of, processing carbohydrates. And so when you go on a ketogenic diet, your body is able to release a lot of the, that water that you're holding on to. And so you end up peeing a lot, right? And where water goes, so goes sodium and all the other electrolytes. So if you're peeing a lot, you're going to be losing a lot of salt and a lot of sodium. And that's fine. That's a good thing. Inflammation is one of the things that people often complain about, when they're coming into eating this way. And so you want to pee out that, you want to let go of that, but you have to make sure that you're getting enough salt and electrolytes to compensate for what you're losing. And I think that while electrolytes are important on a keto diet, it's even more important on a carnivore diet. So I would say, you really got to check to make sure that you're getting enough electrolytes. And, we always encourage everybody to salt your food heavily, but, salt is a very subjective taste, right? So what one person finds, unbelievably salty and inedible, another person, thinks is just fine. So you might be salting and heavily salting to your taste, but you might be coming from the standard American diet where you were trying to, restrict your salt. So many of us, use Mrs. Dash and a lot of different herbs and spices and stuff like that in an attempt to stop using salt. And so your taste might not be adjusted. And so you might feel like, you might feel like your food's not salty enough, or your food is too salty with just a small amount of salt. So, so if you're feeling like headachy, fatigue, weakness, or constipation, you should definitely continue to add salt to your food, but you may also need to add some electrolytes. And, and there's like tons of different electrolyte formulas out there. So, you've got to find the one that's right for you. A lot of people use Keto Chow, and I feel like Keto Chow is great for like ongoing maintenance. But for you, if you need to like really bump it up and get a lot more electrolytes in to kind of get caught up, I don't find that that's enough for me, but it might be for you, but that's a common one that people use. And it's, reasonably affordable. There's another one called Limit, which I think is really good, but it's very expensive. But if you have the money for it, go for it. And then, if you look on Amazon, there's tons of them. Just make sure that you find one that is unsweetened and, preferably without stevia. But a lot of them do have like sweeteners and flavors and stuff like that. So, you're going to have to look hard. I use something called fasting salts, and I really like it, but, it's kind of up to you. Let's see. Deidre says, I had severe leg cramps just last week, but after drinking the salt water, Soleil water, the cramps diminished. Yeah, that's another option. So Soleil water is, basically you're trying to get dissolve as much salt as possible into the water. So it makes a very salty water. But basically you pour a bunch of salt into like a glass jar with water, you stir it up, and leave it there. And at a certain point, the water will absorb all the salt that it possibly can, and anything left over is going to sink to the bottom. And so it's a very concentrated saltwater source. And then people like take a tablespoon, teaspoon, whatever, and add it to their water. So any way you want to get it is fine. You just got to figure out how to get it in. Let's see. Audra says, and if you're active and sweat, another way to lose electrolytes. Yeah, that's right. And Deidre, you also so Audra also gets cramps in the legs and keeps magnesium along with electrolyte drops or water. Yeah, so leg cramps is a very common sign of magnesium deficiency, and magnesium is another one of the electrolytes. So you just want to make sure that you're getting enough magnesium. So you can, swallow it orally, but magnesium also absorbs through the skin. So that's what Epsom salt is. So some people take an Epsom salt bath. And you can also get a magnesium oil spray, and you just spray it on your skin, and it'll absorb that way too. So if you get tired of like taking all the pills and stuff like that, get yourself some magnesium spray. It's like $12. And if you go to my store, there's a link in there for a brand that I like, but it's more and more common. So, you'll see lots of brands out there. Deidre says she wasn't taking much salt in the meat, not purposely, she just doesn't use that much salt. Yeah, so that's a common thing. And, and it's a fine balance. Like nobody can tell you exactly how much salt you need. Your need for the salt is going to vary based off of your activity for the day, the heat, the humidity, what you ate, and all of that. So, whether you had a bowel movement, because that draws water, and electrolytes. So, it really, you're going to have to go by your body. And, and if you don't like the salt, then you may need to just add more electrolytes to your water and not have as much of it on your food. So it's, kind of up to you there. Now, Chantel Nurse says, what about those with hypertension? Will salting the food increase blood pressure? So that's one of the interesting things, in the keto carnivore world. The research shows that, hypertension is really caused by insulin resistance, not by the salt that you're eating. So by following a ketogenic and a carnivore diet, what you're trying to do is lower your insulin resistance. But there's going to be a period of time as you're healing when you still have some insulin resistance, and you've still got to get your salt intake. And so, your need may be less than somebody else's, but again, you're going to have to, balance it out. And obviously, if you're a person who has hypertension, you need to be checking your blood pressure regularly. I would assume your doctor has given you, a machine to test at home, and, you're supposed to be keeping an eye on it. So that is definitely something that you want to keep an eye on. But if you find yourself getting headachy, fatigued, weakness, or constipation, that you need a little more salt. And if you feel, like lightheaded, like when you stand up really quickly or something like that, then, your blood pressure has gone pretty low, and that may mean, if you're on hypertension medication, there, an adjustment needs to be made. So you have to work with your doctor if you're on medication for hypertension. But, that being said, blood pressure is something that typically comes down pretty quickly. I mean, within weeks. So it is something that you have to, work with your doctor on. But just because you have hypertension doesn't mean that you don't need sodium. You just kind of have to figure out, your sweet spot. Audra says pickle juice. Yeah. That is a way that people, go about getting sodium. Pickle juice is, it's a lot of sodium. So that's a good one. Deidre gets a magnesium oil. The magnesium oil you just spray on your skin. So wherever the cramp is happening, that's where you spray it. Let's see. And Jimmy C says, since doing carnivore from January 6, 2020, I'm happy to say I haven't had a leg cramp since. That's awesome. Yeah. And, and I hear a lot of people who aren't like on a standard American diet, or, they're trying to follow like a low fat, low calorie diet and using Mrs. Dash and keeping salt low. They often have a lot of problems with leg cramps and stuff because they're not getting that salt. And they're not getting in their electrolytes aren't in balance, and so they are getting those problems. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like, gosh, I wish I could just grab you and get you on a ketogenic diet, and you would see in a very short order how much better you'd feel. But there you go. Liz says, cost effective. I use Morton light salt and pink salt and magnesium at night. Yeah, absolutely. You can do that. So Morton light salt, or I think I've seen, well, there's a bunch of different brands, but it's potassium. And you can get it at the grocery store. So in the area of the supermarket where you can find the salt, you'll see, Salt Light, or whatever, these salt alternatives, and they have the potassium in it. And then you can mix that with salt and with magnesium and have that, throughout the day or at night or whatever. So that's a great idea. Okay, great, Chantel. So I'm glad that was helpful. So just make sure, as you're going on this journey, especially if you notice you're peeing a lot, that you've got to make sure that you're getting that salt in. And for me, when I was getting started on keto, I always knew, like, when I fell off of off the wagon and ate whatever and knocked myself out of ketosis, I always knew when I was going back into ketosis, because I would like pee a ton for a day or two, and it was like every half an hour I'm like racing to the bathroom, and it only lasted a couple of days, but that was always the tip off. Here I am going back into ketosis. Good thing. Liz C, I'm thinking of no salt. Exactly. It's like a little blue canister. Yeah. Audra says, take salt, magnesium, and electrolyte drops with you on vacation or hikes. I dealt with cramps in the middle of the night on a trip and happened in Brazil. Oh my God, absolutely. I cannot stress that enough. Always, always, always carry some salt in your purse. Forget about hot sauce. Carry salt in your purse, because you never know when it's going to hit you that that you need some more salt. And it's so easy to fix it, but if you don't have that salt, it's just gonna be awful. And I love how Redmond's has those little mini bottles that you can refill and carry. Keto Chow also has that little flask, and actually the flask is great for just carrying around, because it's small and it's easy to carry in your purse. And what I like about it too is, I know I said before that I didn't feel like it was very strong, but if I'm really, in a tight spot and I'm feeling like that weak, fatigue and everything, what I do is just take a full capful of the liquid Keto Chow and put it right under my tongue and just let it dissolve there. And so, at that point it's pretty strong. And so I'm able to, it really does help me. And, and that's another tip. So if you're feeling like that feeling, and you really need to get the sodium, what you want to do is take a hefty pinch of salt, put it right under your tongue, and there's a blood vessel that runs underneath your tongue, and if you let something dissolve there, it gets into your bloodstream right, pretty quickly, rather than swallowing the salt and having it go all the way through your digestive system. It takes a lot longer. So if you're feeling really bad, feeling headachy, weak, fatigued, and you do that with the salt, you should start to feel better within like 10 minutes. If you don't, then there may be something else going on, but you should, you'll probably notice a significant difference in about 10 minutes. But do your best to like not let this happen, because I feel like it takes a while to get back to normal and to feeling good when this stuff happens. Like it's not a quick, you pick me up and you feel great again. So, and it really kind of sucks certainly to be away and on vacation and, suddenly have this happen. So yeah, just do your best to stay on top of it. Okay. And, Jimmy C says, oh, hey, Portia, great to see you. Jimmy C says, before carnivore, leg cramps was a weekly thing. Oh God, that really sucks. Sorry. Deidre says cream of tartar is also potassium bitartrate. Oh, well, yes, another form of potassium. Yeah, so good to know. Okay. Hey, Daisy, and hey, Island Girl. Good to see you. So, and the other thing to note, there is another sector of the carnivore population that does not use any salt and doesn't add any electrolytes. And I think that once you get over the hump and you get transitioned to get used to carnivore, I mean, that's an alternative, approach that you can try. The thing is, you want your electrolytes to be in balance. And when you start adding things individually, things can get out of balance and it can be a little bit hard to keep things together. And so, kind of the idea behind the adding no electrolytes is that, your body will just balance at a lower level and, it'll work out and it'll be fine. I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. I mean, there's enough people who are doing no salt at all that are doing well. So, it makes me think like it is a viable option. It's not, it's not ridiculous, not crazy. So that's something to try later on. But I would say get yourself on, make sure you have no headache, fatigue, weakness, and get kind of stable on carnivore. And then you can try these other things and see how they go. But I did do a short stint where I no added salt. And, at first, like the first meal or two, it was kind of like, ooh. And then, after that, like I just kind of got used to it, and then meat tasted fine. It tasted good. So you might think, that it's not going to taste good, but, you kind of quickly adjust. So I wouldn't be afraid of that. But it's more important to feel good in the beginning and then, then kind of figure out your own personal path and how that all is going to work for you. Okay, so there is that. Now let's go on to the next thing. So another common problem that people have or complaint is, feeling irritable, brain fog, cranky, hangry, and having cravings. And and let me know who here has experienced those things. For sure, I have all of the above. It's, it doesn't feel good. So, figuring out the right approach to dealing with that is super important. Let's see. Liz C says, I never heard your story, just your pictures. Did you ever count calories on your journey? Yes, when I was doing keto, but not on carnivore. Okay. So the key to feeling irritable, brain fog, cranky, hangry, and cravings, I think the key there is really hunger. A lot of times we come from, a culture of deprivation. The idea that, you're going to try to lose weight and you're going to go on a diet. The idea is, okay, you eat less. And so I think a lot of us just cannot wrap our heads around this idea of actually eating to satisfaction, eating to fullness. And when and it's just, especially for cravings, it's just natural that if you're hungry, the way that hunger is going to be expressed is going to be through a craving. I think that a lot of us think about hunger as in your stomach is growling, and that's how you know you're hungry. But in fact, there are a whole host of signs of hunger that have nothing to do with growling. And, and if you're not like clued into that, you might not realize that, that sign is actually hunger. So when you're on carnivore, your hunger signals come in very differently. And it very often is this, feeling brain foggy, being irritable, like your mood gets disrupted. You have intrusive thoughts of food, you have these constant cravings, like that's hunger on carnivore. So when that starts happening, then it's time to start thinking about, okay, what was my last meal? Is it time for the next meal? What do I have? Like all of that. And so when you start having cravings, a lot of times you're just hungry, you just need to eat more. And, your body sends, sugar is a, quick and easy source of energy, right? So when you are, when you're, hungry and it's time to like refuel, your body's going to send you the signal, hey, when you have Oreos, that's like quick and easy. Great. But that, so you're going to have that mental thought going on, but you've got to remember, oh, okay, this is just a sign that I need some energy. I need more calories. And when you're on a ketogenic, well, when you're on the standard American diet, your energy source is sugar. But when you're on a ketogenic diet, your energy source is fat. And so you've got to provide fat if you're feeling hungry. That's really what's happening there. So, and especially if you are trying to do like a protein sparing modified fast, or if you're trying to lose weight and you're trying to, cut the fat and eat more lean, you want to be especially vigilant about paying attention to when these cravings are happening, because likely you're gonna, you might restrict for a while and eat pretty lean, but you might have a rebound where, you just have cravings and you just get out of control and you go on a binge. So pay attention to that. And if that's happening, then just know that you got to back off and not go so lean, or not try to do lean for as long, and just have more fat. So that's why a lot of times in the beginning people say, when you go on carnivore, just make yourself a big plate of bacon, leave it on the counter, and just eat, fat all day. So anytime you're feeling like a craving or whatever, you want to make sure you're eating enough meal. You want to eat enough food at each meal. But if you need to, go ahead and have, some bacon or something that's very fatty, and that'll help a lot. Okay. And let's see. Audra says, "Do the no salt carnivores eat more eat more blood within the meat, more rare, maybe organs?" In this country, unless they are vampires, they're not eating more blood. So the way that meat is prepared here, after a cow is slaughtered, it is hung in the, at the, the butcher, where, or wherever they initially start processing the cows. And so it's hung for about 4 weeks. And so the blood drains out of it. So there isn't the same kind of blood that if we were living on a ranch and, killing our own food and eating it, you would get a lot more sodium in the meat, because it would, you would be eating it freshly slaughtered, and you wouldn't have lost all that blood. So if you are just a, supermarket carnivore, you're not going to be able to get more blood in the meat. So yeah, there you go. Okay. So I said eat. Hey, a large picture. Welcome. It's good to see you. Okay, and so the next thing is bloating, burping, upset stomach, heartburn, diarrhea, gas, and cramping. I think that was the song for a commercial for Pepto-Bismol, maybe. I don't know if you all remember that. So these can be common things that happen in the beginning. A lot of people have a lot of different kinds of digestive distress. People come to carnivore because they have IBS or all of these other symptoms. And so that's, they're looking for relief, and sometimes they find it right off the bat and sometimes they don't. And so there's a number of things that can be done with this, but, let me know if this is something that you feel is a problem for you. For me too, in the beginning, it was, I think there's a bunch of things that are going on. I mean, one, this is a massive change to your diet, and which means that there's like a massive change to your gut microbiome. And, the microbiome is full of like billions of lots of different, critters that live in there, and, they eat certain things. And so when you make a change in your diet, that's going to make a change to the entire environment and, the prevalence of one bacteria over another, and so on. So during that switch over, which can happen, I think that change, it begins like, within a few hours, and maybe it takes, a week or a couple of weeks to, to complete. So during that time, you might have just, some discomfort as you, there's like a mini war essentially happening in your gut. And it's a battle to see who's going to survive given the new food that's coming in. So there is that. Okay, the the solutions there are, so I recommend, when you have the gut stuff going on, is to, check your meal size, check how much liquid fat you're eating, and then you might consider adding in HCl tablets. And I see some people wrote bile salts as well in the chat, and so let's talk about that. Let's see. Daisy B says, thankfully, I have always loved fatty bits, so it's been an easy transition. Yeah. Hey, Mommy Does Keto. Great to see you. Welcome. Okay. And Daisy, great to see you. And Daisy asked, did you eat strict or allowed all animal foods? All animal foods would be part of strict. So I don't eat dairy, but if you can eat dairy and it doesn't cause a problem, it's an animal food, and that's part of, carnivore. I hope that answers your question, Daisy, and ask again if it doesn't. Okay, so checking your meal size. I think, we see lots of pictures on Instagram of people sitting down to like a 2-pound ribeye, and they're like, yes, I'm digging into this gorgeous looking piece of meat. But, you've got to remember that your stomach might not be ready and able to handle 2 pounds of meat at once. So, you need stomach acid, right? And that's what helps to digest the food. But coming from a carnivore diet, or coming from a standard American diet, or just a diet that's very high in carbs, that actually makes your stomach less acidic. And so you're not going to be as good at digesting food. And then the other thing that can happen is a lot of people, suffer from heartburn, and maybe take Tums or PPIs, and those things also reduce the acidity of your stomach. So if you are a person, you might be a person that falls in that category where your stomach acid, you just don't make a lot, or you don't have enough, or it's not acidic enough. And your body will catch up and fix that over time, but it might not be able to do it overnight. And so if your first meal, you decide to go carnivore and you decide to have a 2-pound ribeye for breakfast and do like an OMAD, like that's going to be a disaster. And so usually what happens is, you might feel like you might have a lot of burping. You might feel like you've got a brick in your stomach. You might have a lot of diarrhea. All of those things are possible. So what you want to do is just have smaller meals. Your body can digest the protein, but you've got to have it in smaller amounts. So don't do OMAD from the start. Start with 3 meals a day, and you should be able to handle 6 to 8 ounces of meat for sure, and go from there. And another note, which I forgot to put up here, is make sure you are salting your food enough. I mean, salt is part of what your body uses to make the hydrochloric acid, which is the acid in your stomach. So if you're not eating enough salt, you're going to have trouble making enough of the acid. So make sure that you're adding the salt in there. And I also forgot, don't drink liquids 30 minutes before, during, or after your meal. So if you don't have enough hydrochloric acid, or if it's not acidic enough, adding liquid is only going to dilute it, and it's just going to make it worse. So just don't drink anything. Don't drink anything, 30 minutes before, during, or 30 minutes after your meal. And, and that should help a lot. So, start with that. And then the other thing is liquid fat is a massive problem for most people in the beginning. So, liquid fat, it just, when it's in liquid form, it runs through your body, and it just runs through your system, and it's going to cause a lot of diarrhea and, stomach cramps and so on, and maybe nausea as well. Like if you make ground beef crumbles and in the pan, and you put the whole thing in a bowl, and you sit down and you start eating it, and there's enough grease in there that it kind of looks like cereal, with milk, that level of liquid in there. you're going to have a terrible time. So don't don't drink that liquid, drain that ground beef, eat it with a lot less of that liquid fat. And also if you're having butter, you can have it for flavor, but don't like put a whole ton of butter in there, because that's just going to liquefy and you're going to have the same problem. So that's one thing. Try to eat, if you can afford it, or if you have the means and the access to it, try to eat like fatty cuts of meat that have like fat in them, and solid pieces of fat, because that's not going to upset your stomach. It's really the liquid fat that's a problem. So those are the solutions there. And if you're finding just ease up on the fat. And I know that, coming from keto, we've kind of gotten used to this idea of making fat bombs and, drinking your fat and bulletproof coffee and stuff like that. But it's not a good idea to drink your fat. You want to eat it as much as possible in solid form. And then, so finally, if that is not working, then, you kind of want to look at the HCl tablets. And those basically increase the acidity of your stomach. Some people will, you'll hear them talking about adding apple cider vinegar to water and drinking that throughout the day or right before a meal. And I think that essentially what that is trying to increase the acidity of your stomach. But apple cider vinegar is so it's just not as strong as taking the HCl tablet. So if you need to, consider taking that, and it's not forever. It's only for a couple of weeks until your body gets caught up. And, that should happen within, I don't know, probably not more than 4 weeks. That's something to think about. And then bile salts is something that people suggest. So some people do have trouble with the fat, and even like regular, like hard or solid fat is a problem. And so bile salts can be helpful. But you want to experiment with that as well and kind of figure out how much you need to take. But I would first, try cutting down the meal size. Eating less of everything at one time is gonna solve a lot of problems. And stop having the liquid fat, and stop adding a lot of fat, and you probably will feel, you'll feel better. And then, if things aren't getting better at that point, that's when you could start considering the supplements. So that's kind of the, what I wanted to share and make sure everybody knew. And let's dive into some questions now. So, okay, so let's see. Daisy says some people say to only do ruminant animals. I don't think you have to only do ruminant animals. I think you have to have some portion of ruminant animal every day, but you can have other stuff as well. You're going to have to... Ooh, so loud out there. You're going to have to go by how you feel, but I think you're going to feel best when you make sure to have some ruminant animal every day. Okay, Jimmy C is answering. All animal food, mainly ground beef. I have a lot of ground beef. It's, economical. It's easy. Yeah. Happy to be Taylor says adding melted butter to my food has helped with constipation and helps to keep me full for longer periods of time. Yeah, that's awesome. I forgot to say that. So for constipation, salt is a big part of it, but also fat. And so if you're eating too lean and you're finding that you're getting constipated, you're right. Happy to be Taylor is right. Adding more fat is really going to help a lot. And you just kind of have to figure out the balance. And yes, fat will keep you fuller longer. So, it's again, kind of a balance there. Mendel says suggestions for retaining fat when cooking ground beef all seems to melt out. Scheduling suggestions. How to eat on schedule and have food available on schedule and on budget. Yeah, I'd love to hear other people's suggestions for this. So I like to make meatballs instead of doing the ground beef crumbles in the pan, because I do find that, that releases like a lot of the fat. But when you put the meat into like a ball, I feel like it holds more of the fat inside. But the most important thing to making a good meatball or a good hamburger is not to really press the meat. You want to just barely touch the meat, because the more you compress it, there's less space inside. So as the fat renders, it's got nowhere to go, and so it goes out. But you want to like leave pockets in there inside, so that when the fat renders, it just stays inside in those pockets. So that's the key. When I see people doing this to get the patty flat, it's like, oh, that's going to be the worst burger ever. So that's my suggestion there. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts. Okay. Audra says, I used digestive enzymes initially. Yeah, Audra, could you say what you used? I'd love to hear what you used and how you used it. And Mandel says, sometimes I'll find I'm feeling stuffed and hungry. Stuffed and hungry. Is this an indicator of something? Usually that's an indication you haven't had enough fat. So this is something that can happen too with people on who are following a protein sparing modified fast, or just trying to go leaner on carnivore, is that you can eat a lot because you still want fat, and so your body's still driving you to eat more to get more fat, but you haven't gotten enough, and your desire for protein has turned off because you got enough of that, but you didn't get enough fat. So you still have this desire to keep eating, but not really, isn't anything that you want to eat. You don't want any more protein. So that's kind of what can happen. And that can leave you feeling sort of stuffed and hungry at the same time. So Mandel, I would say you need more fat. And some people do eat, butter like straight out of the refrigerator. In its solid, at that point, it's still in a solid form, and so it's less likely to cause, like diarrhea or something like that. So I would suggest, if you're feeling like that, you're, kind of in the kitchen, you're looking around, and you're like, I want something, but I don't know what, but I want something. You probably want fat, and you probably want to try just, cut off a little hunk of butter and eat that and see how you feel. And I bet you'll find that that's what you're looking for. And then that means that you need to figure out how to get more fat generally into your meals. Okay. Daisy, yes, you're inspired. Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. Oh, you're inspired by Jimmy. You guys are having this whole conversation. That's awesome. I love it. I love it when there's a conversation in the chat. Mandel didn't know about the drinking within the half an hour of a meal. Yeah, I mean, that's not for everybody, but if you are finding that you are having bloating or burping or any of the other stuff that I listed, that's something to look at and to do. But I drink with my meals. I have to say, I do sip water. I don't chug it. So if I feel thirsty, I try to solve that while I'm cooking. But I don't want to sit down having just drunk a bunch of water. I don't know. I just don't like that. I don't like the way it feels, and I don't know. So maybe that's my body just sending a smart signal. Hey, don't do it like that. Okay. And Mandel says, went carnivore and went sad for a while. With the shift change, going back to carnivore stuff doesn't seem right. Is there something different on the rebound? Well, I'm not quite sure I get it. If you're doing shift work and you're doing, and you're working the late shift, that does all kinds of things to your body, when you're up at night when you're supposed to be sleeping. So, your hormones are definitely going to be off, and it's going to take a little while. If you're shifting back to the daytime, it's going to take a little while to get things back into order. Oh, and you had asked a question about scheduling food. I do think, especially if you're doing shift work or other stuff like that, it's really helpful to have food ready so that, when the urge to eat strikes, like you can take care of it. It's not a big, a big challenge or a big effort to do something about it. Yeah, I would, I mean, I've made meatballs a lot, and just kind of make them and have them ready, or or I form them but don't cook them, and then I put them in the air fryer. And I think you had said something about using well, you were trying to cook in the microwave, maybe. So that's I mean, you can certainly do that. And I think that if you're doing that, you probably want to make the meatballs, like, really try to be gentle with the beef so it doesn't get mashed out. That's going to keep a lot more of the fat in. And then when I cook in the microwave, what I like to do is wet a paper towel and sort of drape it over the food, and that helps keep moisture in it, and so it doesn't get dried out and rubbery. So that might help as well. Let's see. Mommy Does Keto says, I do love Kerrygold. Yeah. Butter, like, does taste good right out of the fridge. And oh my God, Mendel says, I was using a rolling pin on ground beef and it was dry as hell. Yeah. Oh gosh. I can't imagine. Yeah. I mean, I think that technique is useful if you're trying to make carnivore pizza and you're trying to use hamburger as the base. And I have done something similar when like I was trying to make like a toast point for pate. And so I cooked, like, I made like a meatloaf, but I cooked it a really long time, and so it would get very dry inside, and I made it very dense, so it would be more bread-like than anything. So I could see a reason why you might do it that way, but yeah, it's gonna be, that's not going to be your favorite hamburger. So any suggestions on meatball size and time and temperature to cook? Basically, the way I do it, it's about one ounce of meat. So I keep them small. They're like essentially 2 bites worth of food, and I cook them 6, 7, 8 minutes in the air fryer at 400 degrees. And it's funny, different meats like need different amounts of time. I find pork needs more time than beef, and lamb needs somewhere in the middle between pork and beef. So go figure. Let's see. Heather says, do we have to eat the same amount of protein for each pound of desired weight? Heather, I think that those sorts of things are helpful guides, but don't get so caught up with these numbers, that it makes you, crazy, makes you anxious, or makes you eat unnaturally. Just eat. And then later on, if you are not getting the results that you're looking for, then you can start to, do some of this biohacking and like look at, how many grams of protein and whatnot you're having. But, your body knows more than than anyone, like, what it needs. So it's going to drive you towards what it needs. And as long as you're satisfying it, you're fine. So I wouldn't get too caught up with that. I wouldn't try to restrict your protein down to 40 grams, but as long as you're landing somewhere between, 80 and 160, I think, you're fine. You're fine for you. And, and you will, and your body will send you a signal. I mean, if you're not getting enough protein, you're going to be hungry and tired, and it's going to show. So, and you won't need, you'll know that you just need more food. Okay. So, let's see. Amber asks what type of butter. Any type, whatever you like. I mean, I tend to buy like the European butter or the European style butter. I find, I don't know, I like the way it tastes, but get the best quality butter you can afford. And, if you can get grass fed, I guess that's good. I don't know. I think it's fine. Let's see. Audra says pepsin, betaine, HCl, oxbile, pain. Oh wow, you got a lot of things. Okay. Yeah, so that's an option too. You can get something that is a broad spectrum of a lot of, a lot of these different digestive aids. Chantel Nurse says, has anyone seen rapid weight loss during carnivore? Is it a slow and steady, or is it a slow and steady kind of thing? I think young guys, just like that, in a week, they're like ripped and cut. The rest of us, I don't know. No. There are definitely some people who seem to lose very quickly, but I think for the most part, I don't think carnivore is a faster way to lose weight. But I think that it brings about a lot of healing that you might not get on a ketogenic diet, and certainly that you're not going to get on the standard American diet. So there's benefits to it, but it's weight loss, or faster weight loss is not one of them. I wish though. I wish. If I could deliver that for you, I absolutely would. Let's see. Heather says, it's been more slow for me, but I have lost tons of inches. Yes. So that is definitely a point to be made, that there is usually a ton of body recomposition when you are doing a carnivore diet. So I have definitely seen people, not lose weight on the scale and lose lots of inches. And even, in my program, like I have people provide progress pictures so I can see each week how they're doing, because when I look at the scale, like that number just doesn't tell me anything. And sometimes I'll see that a person, the weight has gone up, but I look at the picture from 2 or 3 weeks ago, the last time they weighed that same weight, and there's a dramatic difference in the pictures, but the scale says the same number. So I know that it is so important for you to take pictures and take measurements, because the scale is not really an accurate tool. It's not going to give you the information that you really need to have when you're following the carnivore diet. And if you are seeing body recomposition, I mean, that's telling you you're losing fat, you're getting stronger, you're putting on muscle, you're getting, denser bones, denser muscles, denser everything. Like, that's what's happening. So you definitely want to make sure that you take those pictures. And I know for a lot of us, like, the last thing we want to do is take off our clothes and take some pictures. But I promise you, you will hate the fact that you don't have any of those pictures. Once you've lost all your weight, you're at your goal weight, you're in your little outfits, and you're strutting out there on the beach, like you're gonna be so upset that you don't have before pictures because you didn't take them. So I really suggest that you do take them. And also for me, it was super helpful to be able to see that weight loss, because the scale for me was not cooperative at all. So the only way I could tell whether I was losing weight or not was to actually look at the pictures, and I can't, you can't remember what you look like 3 weeks ago. You can only barely remember what you look like yesterday. So there's no way you're going to be able to remember the differences. So that's my recommendation there. So Audra says, body dramatically shrinking, no real movement on the scale, but I've been overweight for over 10 years. Yeah. And, it's sad to say, but the older we get, the harder it is to lose weight. And, and the stuff that we hear people talk about, like starvation mode and all that stuff, when you're doing low calorie diets, that's real. We've caused damage to our bodies. We've caused damage to our metabolism, and your body never forgets anything you've ever done. So, every time you have restricted and it's ramped down the metabolism in order to compensate, like your body remembers that. And, its goal is to keep you alive despite, the worst sort of circumstances. So, it's good. It's good that it's doing this, because, you want it to like have this constant will to live. But, the circumstances are, we're sending the wrong message. And so now that we're following a carnivore diet, we're finally sending the right message. And it just takes time for your body to kind of acclimate to that and to allow your metabolism to stay high and release fat. And so that just, it takes time. It takes, your body getting to trust, that you're feeding it, that there's no, restriction on calories. There's no restriction to food. Like, you have ample, resources. Everything is good. It just takes time. And that was something that I loved about what Dr. Rimka said when we interviewed her, that it really takes time to, to get your body out of this mode of thinking that, there is some kind of deprivation going on. And so, really flooding your system with fat, making sure that you always have enough fat, that is a real trigger to your brain to know that, times are good. There's plenty of food. So, I don't know how long it takes for your body to kind of calm down and understand that that there's a reliable and ample, sources of food, but, that's what we're trying to do. And so, you need to have the fat. Let's see. Okay, Island Girl, says, just started OMAD and my spending has dropped. I shop my favorite meals, and I work out daily, so white sweet potatoes. Okay. So that is a more relaxed carnivore approach, but, if that's working for you, then that's great. Happy to be Taylor says, once I switched to higher fat, I finally started losing weight. I think I was doing too high protein before. Yeah. Yeah, I think that, it's just, you kind of have to send that signal to the brain. And, and it's not to say that you can't ever do lower fat. I think that in the beginning, when you're coming from, standard American diet or even keto, you kind of got to just get your body to understand that everything is good. And then later on, once, you've kind of reset your hormones and reset what's going on, you can start to lower the fat, and it's not going to freak out in the same way. But I wouldn't start out that way. Heather, okay, I'm glad that see, I don't want people stressing out, because I think that's the part of, carnivore and keto that, makes people not want to follow it or stick with it. When you really get all wrapped up with your macros, and every day someone says like a different macro is ideal, and then you're like, oh man, well, I was thinking I need to do 80, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it needs to be 60, 60% fat. And then, you got to jigger your whole, weekly menu, and then you hear somebody else say, no, 90% fat is ideal. And yeah, I just felt like it was, I was constantly switching and jumping, and it just, was very frustrating. Mommy Does Keto says Aldi has their own version of Kerrygold that is just as delicious and way cheaper. Oh, wow. I did not know that. There's definitely European style butter at the grocery store that is made in America, but it's made the way Europeans make butter. I don't know, just like the only way that I see the difference is when I make ghee and I use American butter versus this European style butter or European butter. I feel like the American butter foams more. And so that says to me there's more water in the American butter. So that's kind of what I've noticed as a difference. I don't know that is a meaningful difference in terms of like spreading it on something or melting it on your steak. But when I'm making ghee, I've noticed that difference. Spread butter definitely contains seed oils, Mendel. So yeah, don't have that. Just have regular butter. Hey, Sonia, it's great to see you. Awesome. And Daisy B, awesome to see you. So you're down 1 to 2 pounds a day going on 2 weeks. Wow, that is awesome. So congratulations. Now, there are some people, rapid weight loss. Some of it is water, of course. But, when people, I always, I hear people say that. They're like, oh, those ketogenic diets, it's all water. And it's like, well, first of all, what's wrong with that? When you're all bloated and inflamed and your ankles swell and your fingers swell and you can't fit your rings, like, you need to lose that water. So it's a good thing. But it's not all water. It is also fat, and that's a great thing. Okay, let's see. Jimmy C says, yes, take pictures. I really regret that I didn't do that. Yeah, absolutely. And I kept one shirt from the old days. But yeah, I didn't want to keep a lot of clothes, and I don't know. I just never wanted to like get into my jeans and be that person who's standing in one leg of my jeans. But yeah, definitely take pictures. You don't have to show them to anybody. You can hide them, but you need to have them. Let's see. So Deidre says, I think I may be doing too much protein because I'm only losing inches and it's really slow. No. Why do you think you're doing too much protein? If you're only losing inches and it's really slow, that's totally normal. That's totally normal. I mean, this is going back to my Weight Watchers days, but you all know I was a coach at Weight Watchers and I helped people lose weight that way. I've seen tons and tons and tons of people losing weight different ways, keto, Weight Watchers, all the different ways. And the thing that I see is 1 pound a week is normal. So I don't know where we got this idea that we should be losing 2 pounds a week, but I don't see that on a normal basis for women. For men, yeah, it can be, certainly. But for women, 1 pound a week is normal. So 4 to 6 pounds a month, you are absolutely where you should be. Like, that is fine. That is good progress. So don't stress out too much if it's not going faster than that. And it's just, I think we just have these really unrealistic expectations about how much weight we should be losing on the scale, and not enough expectation for the changes that are happening before our eyes. The other thing to remember is only you see that number on the scale, but everybody can see how tight your pants are. So when you're busted out of your pants, you still fit in the same pants, but you're busting out. Like, people can see that. And that is more meaningful, as that starts to change. That's more meaningful, I think. And anyway, I think, than that number on the scale. So, stay the course. Don't worry if you're not losing pounds. If the inches are coming, you're doing great. Everything is going exactly as it should. Let's see. Mommy does keto. We aren't used to trusting our bodies. Absolutely. 100% right. And that's what this is about. And what's so awesome, or what I think can be so awesome about the carnivore diet, is that you can begin to trust your body and let your body tell you, this is, I need more of this. I don't need that. And we've had enough and we're great. So that is awesome. And our bodies are smart and they do know what they need. Exactly. Let's see. And Daisy says, yes, it gets to be easy if you let it. I'm only concerned with what delicious recipe is next. Yeah, exactly. Mandel says, I was getting the highest fat ground beef I could get. Cooking out all the fat, it seems. Have no idea how to cook real solid cuts of meat, but I'm thinking baking a steak in the drippings. I don't know. I'm not sure about baking a steak. Yeah, that's learning to cook meat is definitely a challenge, and something that took me quite some time to do, because, I kind of grew up with, like, here's some chicken cutlets and poach them in a pan or put them under the broiler, and, all of it was gross. But I didn't really get instruction like that when I was growing up. So you definitely need to figure out how to cook meat. And I do recommend just, try to find like a basic cookbook and see if you can get one that's older, so it really just kind of talks about how to actually cook a piece of meat, not a recipe, not stir fry, not, finding ways to incorporate more vegetables, not all of that. You just really need to know how to actually cook a piece of meat. And that'll really help. Now, Mandel, I did have someone named Jack Rustin on my podcast a while ago. If you can go back, I think it's called something about the perfect steak. So he wrote a book called How to Cook the Perfect Steak. And he also has amazing videos like where he shows himself cooking all these different things. So if you're looking for help on like the basics of cooking meat, that's another place that you might want to follow. I think his channel might be called Rustin's Boneyard, or maybe Jack Rustin. Anyway, so cooking a steak is not easy, and also I would say cooking a burger is not easy. We think of burgers as being like super easy. They're so easy to mess up and so hard to get right. So if you're having trouble with that, like welcome to the club. You're totally normal. I think an easy way to kind of start with meat is braising, because it's a long and slow method of cooking. You don't have to do a lot to it, and you almost can't do it wrong. So if you've got a stovetop and a Dutch oven or an oven, you can put like a pot with a lid on it. You can put meat with water in it and put that in the oven, or you can get an Instant Pot, a pressure cooker, or a crock pot. Those are all 4 different ways to do braising. And so you might want to consider that. I don't know what kind of cooking implements you have, but that's something to think about. Yeah, Liz, it's a great point about the obsessing about numbers. Let's see. So happy to be Taylor says, I don't track calories or macros, just been playing around with high fat days and lower fat days to see what gets the scale moving. Dipping my food in melted butter has gotten the scale to move. Excellent. I'm so glad to hear about that. Ann Taylor says, I'm not sure if you already have, but could you tell what you eat daily and drink? Yeah, I mean, it's like I don't really think about it, but let's see. So today I had a pork chop. Yeah, I think or pork loin chop or something like that. It was like a thickish piece of pork with a, smallish fat cap on it. I fried it in a pan, and I had that at breakfast. And then at lunch, I had about 8 ounces of chuck roast that I chopped up into my little chuck chunks, and that was so good. And I had beef bacon with that. That was very good, very good. And well, I guess I had that around 4 or 5. So I'm not sure if I'm probably not going to eat again tonight. So that was 2 meals today. And I had water. So I'm off the coffee again. So today is like day 3 or day 4 of no coffee. And it's totally fine. I notice I'm drinking a lot more water. So I've probably had a gallon of water. I don't know why I'm so thirsty, but there you go. And I don't remember what I ate yesterday. So I gotta take more pictures and put that up. Okay. And Deidre says, okay, I'll be patient with my weight. The concern is mainly to heal. Absolutely. Wow, there are a lot of people watching, so please go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and click the little bell icon so you can get notification every time I go live. I hope this information was really helpful to you all, and I really appreciate all of you for being here. And oh my god, these super chats. Khalid, that is amazing. $49.99. I really, really appreciate that. That was so kind. Oh my god. And Audra, thank you for the super sticker. Thank you so, so much. That is awesome. Well, Khalid, if you have a question, put it up. Let's see how we can be helpful. And let's see, Liz offers the advice to check YouTube for cooking meat. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I just did a lot of cookbooks and, asking, well, not my grandmother, but other older women in my family. I think it's helpful to go older back in time because people just stopped cooking meat, I don't know, maybe early mid 70s. So after that, I don't feel like that was a thing that people were trying to do. Audra says a sous vide is a game changer. Yeah. So, I did try the sous vide for a while. So, it was okay for me, but some people really love it and do great with it. So definitely consider a sous vide. That's pretty awesome. And cast iron, yeah, it's amazing for beef. It's pretty awesome. Liz says, what's the name of my podcast? My podcast is called Black Carnivore, and it's the same content. I'm releasing the same interview that I do on YouTube as I do on the podcast. But there are some people who prefer to listen to podcasts and don't want to watch on YouTube. So that's the difference. And Mommy Does Keto says cast iron skillet, a crock pot, and a grill is all you need for meat. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to add a air fryer, and I like cooking in the oven as well. So, those are great methods. Wow, and Taylor, there are a lot of us here. So thank you all for being here and for watching live. That means so much to me. It really does. So let's see. And do I eat any or many eggs? Yes, I do eat eggs, but I kind of go off and on eggs, and sometimes they make me nauseous and sometimes they don't. So I have gone many years not eating eggs, and then I come back to eating them. So now I do eat them, but I try not to eat a lot because I really don't want to hit a point where I'm like, they making me nauseous again, because they're awesome. I love them. So I don't eat a ton of them, but other people do. And God, somebody sent me a picture last night of some food they got. They went to some farmer's market and got 30 eggs for $4. I was like, oh my God. So the bounty some people have access to. So if you have access to that kind of eggs and you want to eat a ton of eggs and they don't make you sick, knock yourself out. That's awesome. Deidre, thank you so much for the super sticker. I really appreciate it. God, I really appreciate all of your support. It's your, you're being here, you're providing support, you're, being part of this community and growing and sharing this community that makes this happen. And I so want to see everybody find success on the carnivore diet and really enjoy it and do well. And that's why, I try to put this content out here, because I know how difficult it can be in the beginning. And I was just saying to somebody, like, food it's not just food. Food carries culture, it carries community, it carries relationships between people, between families, friends. So food is not just food, and we have to figure out how to eat differently than the rest of the world, and at the same time still feel like we fit into our communities and still have relationships with people. And so we have to build this kind of community to provide support so that you can go out there in the world where you are being told from morning to night that sugar is great and you need to eat it all day long. I mean, I can't tell you how many times people tell me that, like, your body requires sugar. Your body requires carbs. And, God, some guy sent me, a post or something he'd found from a dentist who said that, eating a high protein diet was dangerous and that it could put you in a state of ketosis, and that could make your mouth taste or smell like rotting fruit. And I was just like, I don't even know what to say to this. Like, I don't know. So yes, I want to get this information out here. I want to support all of you, and I want to see all of you do a great job and continue to spread the word. So when people say stuff like that, it's like, well, I guess I'm not going to breathe on you and ask you if my breath smells, but I'm going to tell you, like, this is a great way to eat. Oh my gosh. So Deidre, thank you so much for the super sticker. That really is awesome. And Mr. Bogglesworth, thank you again for the super sticker. This is really awesome. I really appreciate everyone's support so much. Okay. Do I have any meetups? Happy Taylor asks. Yeah, so I have had some in New York, and we tried to organize one a couple of weeks ago, and then someone couldn't make it. So I guess I'm going to try again. But more importantly, we are organizing the one next summer, and oh gosh, we still have to nail down an actual date. But we do want to do an actual meetup next summer, and we're thinking about doing it, I don't know, maybe in like the Virginia area or somewhere around DC. I'm not sure. So we're still working on that. Hey, Sharika, it's great to see you. Awesome. Welcome. And let's see. Mandel says, the first time I heard you say go carnivore, I felt so much better. After a week, I thought I knew all I needed. I learned very healthy, important stuff every stream. Awesome. I'm so glad. I do want to make these things as, as helpful and as informative as possible. And it always surprises me. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm repeating myself all the time, but I think back to when I started and I needed to hear this stuff repeated over and over, because it took a long time for me to really believe that meat was not bad for me. And even when I was doing carnivore and seeing the benefits, I still had a part of me thought that meat was still bad for me. So it takes a long, long time, and you got to hear this stuff many, many times. Let's see. Mendel says, have I tried frying the yolks? The egg whites are more problematic. The yolks are made to be nourishing. Yeah, I do prefer the yolks, I would have to say. But I just have been careful about not having too many. I don't want to, right now things are good, so I'm just going to let it go as it is, coast along. And, I have 2 eggs, for 2 days, and then I don't have any for a week or so, and kind of let it go like that. Liz C, when I figure out how to send a super chat, I will next time. Awesome. I think there's an icon somewhere in the chat. Okay, Mommy does keto. I've been loving deviled eggs lately. Mayonnaise is so easy to make with animal fats like bacon, grease, or ghee. Melted butter will work too. Oh my God, you are a rock star. I do not seem to be able to, I don't have the hang of making mayo. I have made it with olive oil, but I just can't seem to figure out how to make it with a lard or anything else. And then after you make it, I end up making it, and then there's like a ton, and then it's like, well, what am I going to do with all this mayo? I mean, there's a limit to how much I can actually consume in a short period of time. So I've made it with lard, and then I put it in the refrigerator, and it turns rock hard, and it's no longer like mayo anymore. So Mommy does keto. If you can give me some tips like how you handle that, because I would like to have mayo again. That's actually, I think, one texture or one food that I do kind of miss on carnivore. Okay. Let's see. Wow. Tasmania. Ann Taylor. I forgot you're from Tasmania. That's awesome. Man, we have people from all over the world. I think this is really cool. I have always wanted to travel to so many of these places, so I wonder if I'll ever make it to Tasmania. I don't know when the world is ever going to get back to some semblance of normal where, we can do stuff like that. But I hope to, someday do like a bit of a world tour, and I would love to catch up with everybody, in all the places that you are, and actually, kind of have a face-to-face. I think it would be really cool. Mandel, I'm a true Levite on the Order of Melchizedek. Thank you. That really means a lot to me. Thank you so much. And Liz C, yeah, you miss mayo as well on eggs and tuna. Agreed. One thing that I used to love in the before times was a tuna melt. And I feel like there's no reason why I couldn't make the tuna melt work except the mayo. And of course, I'm not going to have the cheese, but I could have something like that. So, yeah. And Vanessa says I use leftover mayo that I have in the fridge on leftovers. I put it in the microwave of leftovers and eat it as a sauce. Is that regular mayo or mayo that you've made from animal fats? I'd be curious. Um, and Sonia says scrambled eggs trigger your love for grits. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I can agree. I love, love, love scrambled eggs. I am iffy on hard boiled eggs. Like deviled eggs, I'll eat the yolk and leave most of the white. Um, but hard boiled eggs, I just do not like. So I don't know. So I really don't try to push it with the eggs because I know I'm going to hit something and I'm going to have it one day and be like, ugh. And then that's it for like 10 years. Yeah. So Mommy Does Keto says I use 2 whole eggs, melt the fat you're using, salt and whatever seasonings you can tolerate or like, blend with an immersion blender, and it helps to use a wide mouth jar. Okay. All right. I'm going to try it again. Like, I'm going to try it again. Um, let's see. Magera says, sardines are good, but sometimes I can't take them straight out of the can, so I put mayo on them. They go down much easier. Yeah, everything goes down much easier with fat. This is what I have found with liver. You know, I have a hard time eating liver, but I make pate and I put in a lot of fat and suddenly it mellows out the flavor. You know, you add some salt and a little onion powder and boom, it's like, oh, you know, I feel so sophisticated having my pate on my meatloaf toast point. But it's good. It's good. It's a great way to go about doing it. Okay, Mommy Does Keto says it will harden in the fridge, but just take it out a little bit before you're going to use. I'm just going to have to try this again. Maybe I was doing something wrong last time. But you use 2 whole eggs, melt the fat, salt, and whatever seasoning you can tolerate. Is it 1 cup of fat that you use with 2 whole eggs? And I'm going to do it, and I'm going to report back before next week. Oh, Vanessa says it's one you made. Okay, great. Maybe I'm just the problem. So I will get some lard this week or procure some or make some, I don't know, get it somehow. And then I will do this. And 2 Crazy Ketos just put up a video making butter mayo. Ooh, God, Delissa, that sounds really good. That sounds very good. Okay, Liz C. Yeah, tartar sauce for fish. You know, that's something else that I miss. You know, there's just something that is so useful about that texture of fat to be able to dip something in it. Yeah, so you all get it. Mayo, we got to figure out the mayo. I got to figure out the mayo. All right, Deidre, you got to go. And yes, we all need to go. So Mommy Does Keto, that was 1 cup of fat. Okay, so that's how I'm going to do it. And okay, and Tina Thomas says about the 2 Crazy Ketos video. Yeah, so gosh, I'm going to definitely check that out. I'm going to give that a try. So yeah, everybody let me know if you give it a try. So anyway, we have had a fantastic conversation. I hope that this was helpful to you. I know there were a lot of beginners in the group, so I hope that this is helpful to you. If you are having more problems that aren't really on the list here that we've talked about tonight, definitely reach out to me and, and let's see if we can figure out what, what to do. But of course, don't forget to go to your doctor. I mean, specific pains, different types of things, there may need to be a medical intervention. And I hope that you have a great week. You do well. And I will see you all next week. All right. Have a great one. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. All right. Good night.